Hello again. Welcome to Pixels and Points. This is Matt Nelson, the digital media director here at Red Rock, and with me, as always, Susie.
Yep, I'm the media buyer planner here at Red Rock. We're happy to be back after a brief hiatus.
Today, we got a few articles about liquor advertising, liquor and wine and beer, and just general alcohol advertising. So, not to waste any time, we're just going to jump right in and kind of talk about where the industry does advertising, some industry trends that have happened over the past year or so, and where the industry is headed. So my first article here is basically talking about how the leading social media companies, including Google, Meta, TikTok, and various other ones, are all banding together to set some sort of guidelines or some way to strengthen their platforms so that they limit the amount of advertising from liquor, tequila, beer brands to people that are under 21.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mean, not to go into a whole bunch of details on this because the article doesn't really tell you a whole lot about it. It's just that they're all working
really
a
lot of it open.
They're just talking like it's been a problem in the past, and I completely agree. It's just something that's going to happen in this industry, especially on online advertising. But I mean, you're going to have the same problem if you put the ad on a billboard or on broadcast TV. Same thing with how a lot of the digital is running. A lot of these brands, as we'll get to on one of Susie's articles, is more and more brands are putting a lot of their advertising into CTV and pre-roll and things like that. And when you're targeting online, you can say 21 plus only, but that's never going to be
There's
guarantee.
no guarantee. Yeah, it seems.
So, yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, at least on the TV or even CTV side, the only way to really combat it, or at least get ahead of it, is just to have a message in the creative, right? It's always like the drink responsibly message. Yes. And as far as traditional, that's all they've been ever able to kind of control. So it'd be interesting. I don't know. I have my doubts on if they're going to actually be able to control this as much as they think, or what the methodology even is going to be on how you exclude certain people or include.
And I mean, even on their own websites, they're filtering for 18 plus to 21 plus is ridiculous. Like you go to the website, there's a little splash box that says, "Are you 21 or older?"
Sure. I am today.
Ridiculous. It's just silly. I mean, but the only other thing you can do is, make people log in with, I don't know, some sort of verifiable identification, like their driver's license or something, which that's a little heavy-handed, but
it is. I do know TikTok in some cases is starting to do that. And I only know this because my daughter is 9 and keeps making her own TikTok account. But she gets as far as when they ask for an ID.
No social media for my kids right now either. So
but there's no way they're going to be able to track. You could put anybody's ID on there.
Yeah, you can. So that's what they're doing, is they're just making this standard. And from what I can tell, they don't talk about it in this article, but I think it's just a PR swing for them so that they can say that they're pushing this, and that when the advertising does show up to kids, and if the government wants to get angry about it and wants to talk about suing them, they can, because they're they can just say we have all these things in place to not advertise this to them. So none of our advertising is targeted to them. In fact, if you run an ad on Google and you forget to put over 21 on there or something like that, it won't run if it identifies as liquor. So
they do have that flag in place.
Yeah, but I mean, 21 plus is just a button, and I mean, how well does Google know you? You can go to any of those any of those things that tell you what Google knows about you. The ages are always wrong, so you got to take what you can get sometimes. So it's nice that they're trying, but I don't think it's gonna change anything right now. But it's always good to know that you have that as your backup when you're doing some liquor advertising on the internet. That no, we're not targeting kids. We can't. It's not possible. And if we do, if we accidentally do, it was not on purpose.
Yep. And it wasn't us. It was Google.
So we can go ahead and switch to yours.
Yeah. So I brought a couple articles talking about just current trends in advertising spending. So one of the first articles that caught my eye was this headline that said 61% of total US alcohol ad spend is on digital. And so this is looking back at first and second quarter of this year, which is 2024. And that number, obviously, the entire industry is going towards digital. We all know that. So kind of looking at this current number, we can scroll down and see. So basically they're saying in the fall of 2023, they did another report. Basically, this was a US government report, basically measuring consumption of alcohol coming out of the pandemic. So not to compare it to a number before, but their main statistic they came out with was that 49% of Americans are regular booze buyers. Only 23% of Americans never buy alcohol. So it's a pretty big market to tap. In kind of looking at, here we go, this was the 40 out of the 49% of Americans that were surveyed that were regular alcohol buyers, 35% of them have purchased in the last month. So if they are a consumer, they're quite often a consistent consumer, which I thought that was interesting. And they do keep calling them regular booze buyers, which we were laughing about earlier. But one of the growth areas they attribute it to, obviously coming out of the pandemic, was online sales. And those, just like what we were talking about where the government's kind of tightening up regulations, here's an instance where they loosened them quite a bit. And it was great for our liquor store clients and all the other ones that have online services and delivery now. So
yes, it's kind of a double-edged sword when it comes to that, because now instead of just competing with the 2 or 3 liquor stores that are near you, you have to compete with the ones that are within the delivery distance, which is a little bit farther away. So it's a lot of other stores, like you may have to, where you only had to compete with if you're a small liquor store or something like that, and you only had to compete with a few stores around you. Now you may have to compete with the large big box liquor store that was.
Yeah, it definitely opens up that radius. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's good that you can compete now, but now that everybody can do delivery, it's getting a little harder. I mean, a lot of people are trying to bring them back into the store, but it's going back and forth.
Yeah. But at least the good news is we've got 2 avenues now on how to reach them and how to get them alcohol. But one of the other things they had talked about in this article that I had pulled out was where kind of growth was and where spending is. So, and this is looking from 2023 to 2024. CTV had a 20% growth in spending for alcohol. Programmatic had an 18% growth, and just an entire lift in spending 5% year over year. So budgets are getting bigger, but obviously, just like what we were saying with that first statistic, it's going to digital, and a lot of it's going to CTV, which we're seeing a lot of.
Yeah, and if these brands and these stores want to stay competitive, they're just going to have to spend more on that budget, where they were spending a small amount trying to be super targeted to just these small things. They're going to have to be a little bit more targeted, I think.
Definitely. One of the other things that spending had broken down nationally was kind of by branding and category, which I thought was interesting, because not only do we work with obviously liquor stores and retailers, we also work with a lot of individual brands. So out of all of spending, beer got 58%, wine and whiskey each 37%, vodka 36%, and tequila brands are only spending 25% of budget on all US alcohol. So I know we have a couple of tequila brands. There's some opportunity there because the other guys aren't spending as much.
Yeah.
And then I think we can kind of flip over to another spending article I have. If you bear with me.
Yeah, it's just all those brands are going to have to start being a little bit more competitive on a branding scale than, like I was saying, just that little target where they're just trying to hit that one person, trying to get them to the website. Like, you're going to have to be more of a branding side, because it's going to get more and more competitive.
Mm-hmm. And also, before we jump into this article, and I had pulled just some local spending for our market, Austin, and pulled against liquor stores and brands, and kind of seems the exact same way. What was surprising about our market is, let's see, for stores, 95% of spend, and this is first and second quarter too of this year, and 75% of brands is all radio, which is great. We're able to use it a lot. We love endorsements. We love that kind of field, but there's so much more opportunity. Display for liquor stores in Austin for the first 2 quarters, only 2% of budget spent. So there's definitely opportunity there as well.
Yes.
But jumping into the other article we pulled up, this is really just talking about looking, this was Media Radar's blog, pulled a lot of information on monthly spending for alcohol. And they had sampled, let's see, looking at over the total 1.4 billion spent as of November 2023. So this is 2023, basically annual plan numbers. And they looked at over 1.6 thousand companies, kind of looking at what they had spent. And what they came up with was the 12 advertisers to watch in the alcohol field this year. So we were kind of diving through these media plans, and I think it's kind of interesting to see what these big national brands are spending, what they're doing, where the trends are, and how it kind of compares. Just like what I was talking about locally, when we're spending so much on radio, where else should we look to these guys and kind of get our next ideas and where to shift money?
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. One of the first ones we were talking about was Bud Light. And kind of overall, it looks like obviously everyone is moving towards digital. Everyone is moving away overall, which is what they were talking about in this article, as far as social from Twitter. So alcohol used to actually have a big spend on Twitter, but with all of those changes, they're all going away. Anheuser-Busch canceled their entire Twitter budget for 2024. And in 2023, it was 15% of their entire media budget, not just their digital budget. So that's kind of a big change we're seeing with them, which I think is interesting of the way things are going. And yeah, just kind of looking at Bud Light, obviously what was their total spend? $100 million for 2023. The majority of that is broadcast and online video, which is kind of moving into their CTV, but pre-roll area. And then we've got the biggest other spend in cable. So still a huge video medium for them.
Yeah, I'm happy to see that they have a lot of spend on broadcast still on a lot of these.
Exactly.
Yeah. And some of the brands, I mean, they're going on this thing, you'll see that it has the larger brands, but it's nice to see some of the liquor brands in here, like the Crown Royal that you have there.
Mm-hmm.
But and a lot of them not only doing broadcast, but putting a lot into OTT and pre-roll or online video. So
yep, yeah, exactly. Crown Royal here, they had 22% increase in their OTT budget, and obviously you can see, yeah, the majority of it is all video.
And I'm surprised to see so much still on cable too, but I mean,
it does look like it's trending down. It'll be interesting to see these reports at the end of this year.
Yeah, if you look between Bud Light and Crown Royal, Bud Light has only 12% of its full budget on cable. And Crown Royal has 28%. I'd like to see what kind of they must have it on some specific programming, I guess, that you can
Sports
only get on
package. Yep. Let's see. Here we got Miller Lite. Very similar. Yep, lots of cable, but trending downward. Still majority on broadcast. Let's see. We got more beers. Let's get into the wines. Those are more exciting. Here we've got Kettle One. So looking more into the individual brands, where we said vodka was one of the lower spenders as far as the brand categories. But here you can see majority cable here. Interesting. Less than broadcast. Broadcast, they've gone quite a bit down, but big increase in OTT.
Yeah, I'm just running down. What's weird is that the Kettle One has spending more total money on cable than any of the big beer companies. Most of the beer companies, I was looking at the totals on there, and it's about 13 million on each one of them. And Kettle's spending 16 million, which is up 64%. So
yep, and it looks like, I'm reading the notes, they're targeting women. It's WeTV and HGTV and obviously ESPN. So, but interesting strategy.
All right. They must have some products underneath there that they've marketing more towards women. They did a big push. Hope it paid off for them.
Yep.
It's up 64%. So That's a lot, but they're also doing 361% up on online video and 70% up on OTT.
Yep.
But and they're down on display and native and mobile. So I mean, and this is a little bit of a hint on the trend that we're seeing across like all of the industries, not only this, but a lot of places are wanting to pull back a little bit on native and some of the social media. This one says that they're spending more on Facebook, but we're seeing a little bit of a downtrend on some of the things. But they have like Facebook, Instagram, and they have their mobile spaces and their display places. So they're trying to get it in the right place, and it's getting harder and harder to find that right place. I'm surprised. I mean, you have on next one down is a brewmate.
Oh yeah, I was interested to see that one too.
Accessories, and on most of theirs is they have 15 million on online video.
That's huge.
And almost 100% of their buy is on online video.
Online video, and then it looks like probably most of it, yeah, TikTok, social. So they're trying to get into that kind of space too.
They must be. I mean, if they're doing TikTok, they must be with sponsorships, which I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, influencers. I mean, it makes sense for the Brewmate brand.
Jose Cuervo looks like they actually increased spending on Twitter. One of the only ones.
Oh yeah, interesting. Very interesting.
Maybe they saw an
down when everyone else
left. Everybody else is leaving, and they're like, "We need to get in there and take that opportunity." So because Twitter still has a large audience of people that go to it, so it's not like it's dead at all.
And it looks like most of their broadcasts they were saying went to football on Fox, so that makes sense with the brand. So they're doubling down with the men when Kettle One's going women.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of this. You see, they're still spending money on print too, which is, I mean, some of these are a little interesting to look at where they have increased print spend. So, I mean, some of them.
I do want to check everyone's print spend.
Like Cayman Jack, I don't know where they're doing print. It's a little interesting to see these different media mixes. It's kind of all over the place. So mostly they just have to look and find their niche, and then you exploit it. But with your niche, it looks like a lot of these are still broadcast, cable, and streaming is where they're hitting a lot of their people. So
absolutely.
And with digital too.
Yeah, it looks like you've got to play in the digital space, but obviously if you're one of these national brands, you can't get away from your traditional giants.
If you scroll one more down to a Barefoot, did they really only spend $390 on Facebook?
One boost.
one boosted post. And that means it's up 765%.
Yep.
Don't know what that is.
Obviously take some of this with a grain of salt, but I just like to look at the trends and where the bulk of everyone's money is going, because that's obviously their main focus. You can tell a lot about their target and if we think they're on target or not.
Yeah, and this doesn't include any of their social media management and branding and advertising from that. And that's what I'm talking about when I say management and branding is not paid ads. It's actual posting from the account to the consumer and trying to engage the consumer in conversations or inject yourself into other conversations and, just create content and things like that having to do with
absolutely
your brand.
An entirely different bucket of money.
Which can be thousands and thousands of dollars, especially for one of these larger ones. It would probably be well in one of those buckets. So I'm surprised that they didn't include that as well, because that's in the media. It's part of those social media areas.
Yep. Well, that's one of the things we've always wanted to. Next Pixels and Points, we'll get our social media director on here, and she can weigh in.
Yes. All right. So, any final thoughts on any of this?
I guess the biggest final thought is all the money's going to digital, which we always knew, and we got to chase it.
Yeah, that's pretty close to mine. Is that a lot of the money the big boys are spending it's shifting more to digital, but they are definitely not leaving out TV cable and things like that. There even some of them are still bringing in print where it makes sense.
Mhm.
So it's not for any of the smaller brands that want to make sure that they're advertising. You don't want to completely leave out tactics thinking you're going to be able to get what you need to get just by narrow targeted digital campaigns just on Facebook or something like that. You're going to need to do a little bit more branding, perhaps on a very targeted CTV or something like that. A little
Mhm.
bit more with your streaming broadcast where you can do it. If you're on a local level, that'd be great. If you're a local brand kind of a thing, like there's a lot of local brands that exist all over the country. I know for a fact in just my small city in the Leander and Cedar Park, we've got to have in the 10s, 20s, or 30s different kinds of beers, liquor,
Mhm. All the
whiskey,
breweries and all that. Yeah.
vodkas, and between distilleries, breweries, and wineries in this area. There's a bunch of different local brands that they could be getting in on the game with a little bit more of some targeted broadcast,
Mhm.
cable, and some targeted streaming would help them out a great deal with getting their brand known. Because you go into our local grocery store here, which is HEB, and they carry a lot of these local brands. And
Yes.
it's when you walk in there, it's hard to tell the difference between them. But if you had your branded name out there where people had been seeing it in the community, it could go a long way.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. So I think, yeah, at the end of the day, there's also so many opportunities, big and small, like what you're
Yeah.
saying, for big
And
brands and the local guys.
yeah, doing these targeted OTT, doing some sort of like mobile ID campaign where you're just targeting people who have been to liquor stores and targeting those
Mhm.
kind of people. That more like liquor stores instead of the grocery stores where they're buying their wines and their beers, but they're actual liquor stores. I mean,
Yep.
that's something that we specialize in here. So we get in there and we make sure that the brands are well known in the community when they want to be.
Yep. It's great. I think it works perfectly.
All right.
Well,
So
good. I think that's probably it for today, but we'll be back in a couple weeks with a new topic. Good to talk to you. All right. It's